Through the fixing of a spelling, my language is delivered. My difficulty is done with. I'm free from every hindrance. Settling the orthography is our economic foundation. It defends against all defects in the oneness of our nation. It underwrites and it defines.
I must be devoted to Somali, develop through Somali, create within Somali. I must get rid of poverty and give myself for my own mother tongue.
Only a single night divides all yesterday despair from today's delights, laughter. You people gathered here, how close you've grown together. You face in one direction. Do you hear deliverance call? Have you defined its meaning? Does it taste good in mouth?
I must be devoted to Somali, develop through Somali, create within Somali. I must be rid of poverty and give myself for my own mother tongue.
You who are still unaware, look. You who are deliberately deaf, listen. If the pot isn't placed on the fire, the dish cannot be cooked. So how will it satisfy? Consider this in light of our goal. Where does deep heart lie? But in our backbone. Time to treat that injury.
I must be devoted to Somali, develop through Somali, create within Somali. I must be rid of poverty and give myself for my own mother tongue. And welcome to Good Morning East Africa. This is a program we call ArtFlakes with Felix. In this program, we're going to discuss about the entertainment, education, and we have things like unity, peace, and reconciliation. But today, I'm grateful that I have my co-host.
My name is Hadraawi. Thank you for having us here.
You're speaking as if you're not taking breakfast.
No, because the way I came, I didn't have much thing in my belly. That's why.
Come on, you should speak like it's a good morning with that.
Anyway, good morning, viewers. We are here today, as my co-host has said, that we'll be focusing on arts, flakes, anything that has to do with different aspects of arts, literature, creativity, etc. So welcome once again to ArtFlakes.
Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you. And now we have our guest here. You know, he's maybe talented or educated or... Now, which aspect can you consider you to be?
Well, I am Abubakar Isaac, popularly known as Easy, and I'm a poet, a writer, a literary critic, and also, what do I say again, an essayist, basically. I've written a lot of book reviews and literary essays online. You can find them online if you check my name on Google, and also you can also see them on memorilla.com. I have a lot of literary essays and criticism written there.
I think he needs time to do his own biography. It's too big to be talked on a talk show. But today we're going to discuss about somebody who is very important in this land, in Somali region, and his name is Mahmed
Ibrahim Warsame Hadraawi.
Now, what do you know about him? Just a small brief of him.
Anyway, Hadraawi is regarded as the greatest living poet among the Somalis. And Hadraawi is overwhelmingly loved and cherished by the Somali people, not only for the his supers or matchness of his poetry work, but also for the principled stand that he has. He's a very, very straightforward person, a nationalist to the core. He fought for the right of the Somalis. He fought against corruption. So as far as Hadraawi is concerned, he's known as a romantic poet and an epic poet. He's good at connecting the dots of the Somalis together in his literary work.
Awesome. And now you being a writer and somebody who has written a lot of poem and even read most of the poem, I know maybe you've come across and read about this guy. Do you maybe know when he was born?
Yes, he was born in 1943 in Hadraawi. Hadraawi is from Broho in Somaliland here. And he's a great poet. He has written lots of lyrical poems. He deals basically with romance, and he has a various epic poem. And, you know, one quality about his poem has to do with the fact that it is hinged to orality. You know, it's composed in such a way that these poems can easily be converted into songs. And that is one good thing about him, and a quality which I so much admire in his poems.
Now, if you look at some of the lyric songs that he has created, there are a lot. There are around more than 70 or around 70?
More than 70. He wrote over 200 epic poems and lyrical songs.
Yeah.
The lyrical songs are the ones that have become, they transpire from one generation to another. One of the things that you find out in Hadraawi's lifestyle is the fact that, you know, there was the time he was arrested during the CBA. He spent like 5 years in prison. When he got out of prison, he fought, he continued the fight. Exactly. You know, some people will be weakened by oppression. He never allowed oppression to weaken him. He became stronger when he returned from prison. Then he had this march for peace in the region. Later, he also moved to Ethiopia because it was so difficult. You know, when you are with an oppressive government, it will be difficult for you to operate directly there. They will keep arresting you again. For him to hit more, he went back to join the team, the revolutionaries, the Somali revolutionaries from Ethiopia, and they were firing linguistically, you know, using every powerful literary effort to ensure that the oppressors are dragged down to the floor.
Yeah. Now, let's look at when he left the Somali national movement, which was based in Ethiopia, right? There's some good things that he started to do. Do you maybe have a clue of what he was doing?
Basically, he began writing poetry that has to do with alliterative lines that could easily be fused into the mind, something that you can easily recite offhand. And these poems were not, they were mastered secretly by people. So, and they were transferred from one person to the other. And these poems basically were criticizing the government of the day then. They were criticizing the oppressive regime of the dictator who was the Somali president leader then, Hadraawi. So, and one thing I've noticed about poetry is that, not poetry in fact, literature. One thing I've noticed about literature is that it thrives wherever there is oppression. And in this instance, Hadraawi's works were very much powerful in terms of the impact they had in bringing down that government of Hadraawi.
Apart from that, in addition to what they have said, one thing you also find out is that Hadraawi did not write these. He tried to connect. He had what we call a chain of poetry. He inspired other poets to join him in the connection of that revolutionary poetic work.
So you have other poets who joined him.
Other poets who joined him, and when he writes, another poet will continue from where he stopped. Right, that, and he will give them the feedback, and another one will take it like that. So they connected that together, because if you are working in isolation, he doesn't believe in individualism. He believes in collectivism. So he could have been writing in his own way like that, but because he wanted to engage other literary gurus among the Somalis, so he wanted them to explore their ideas, using that to fight for the freedom or against the oppression of his own people. So he decided to connect it together. Apart from writing in a romantic form, to make the people to love themselves,
at least,
to also love their own culture, their own nation like that. He also decided to ensure that it doesn't go from that angle alone. He tries as much as possible to put down whoever that is going against his own people. There's
and you know what he just explained. What just explained now has a lot to do with orality. It is basically the poem being recited as a word of mouth. You know, it's a communal thing. One person doesn't just have the say. One person says, another person picks it up. And even if you know the tradition of storytelling of folktale in Africa, whereby you have an old person who gather children under the tree, and while he's telling the folktale, there are usually songs inculcated into this folktale that when he sings, it's a kind of talk and response system. Yes, exactly. He sings, they bring in their own response. And you know, it keeps flowing like that. And that is the trend which I have seen that is very quickly about it.
In most of his poems, you see the refrains.
Exactly.
It's a refrain part.
Give the audience the chance to contribute
to be part of what is actually happening.
Expression in a lyrical form.
Allow me to cut you short and remind you something. There's a day that he led a march for peace. You remember?
Yeah.
And it was in Hargeisa.
What he did, it was after he was released.
Exactly.
They thought that after releasing,
you just go and sit down
and be cooled down. You know the way the military will deal with you in prison.
Yeah.
It was tortured. It was not just given this political prison, the VIP prison. There was nothing like that. It was a very tough one. And he came back.
He went back like
stronger,
like a cow. When the cow goes to fight, it goes back, then it fires again. No, it was
stronger when he came back. But he only campaigned for peace. He was a peace advocate.
And march for peace.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
He never marched for violence. He fought, his own weapon was language.
Now,
and he used the language properly.
I know we can talk about this guy, but there's one thing I want us again to chip in. Remember, in December 2012, he received an award, a prestigious award of Prince Claus Fund Award.
Yeah.
You can't imagine this guy now.
That's what I also, you know, he's not only a colonial, pre-colonial, he's also a neo-colonial poet. His poetry transit from one generation to another, and it got to a stage when they realized that the world have to understand the fact that there is a great man with his own language elsewhere.
Exactly.
And for you to be able to have the world audience, you need to be able to have the language.
True.
So they decided to translate his work for the world to know that it is not only in English language that you can express yourself. Every language has their own unique way of presenting the best idea. So he was awarded after realizing the power in his work, and the effect of the content of his poetic presentation to his people. So they realized that.
I'm seeing this guy. He's like
no. Well, basically, I just as an addendum to what he has said so far, the thematic troops of his poems has to do with universal. It deals a lot with universal themes. Yeah, exactly. Themes like love. Even when you talk of patriotism, it's everywhere. You know, and peace. And so because with that now is poetry can easily permit into other societies and environments. So the word, exactly, the word wants to know who is this man that is speaking the kind of things that we also talk about in our own society. You know,
there are some guys who joined him, the likes of this great poet called W.N. Hubbard, who came in and like we can.
W.N. Hubbard was a translator. And you can't translate poetry if you're not a poet.
And we're not even understanding the lines.
So apart from that, he was supported by other Somalis.
Yes.
Two of them like that, like Cairo.
He did the final translation.
They made their own direct translation. So he now made it poetically for us to be able to appreciate it according to the way it was presented by by Hadraawi.
But you know one thing I've come to discover about translation. No matter how good the translator is, he can never approximate the feeling of the poet.
Because you know this guy was bringing out things, and you're like,
because originality comes from
the mind. That is the problem, you know. And you know when
expressions of one's emotion and tranquility.
Yes.
You know, and for you to express, nobody can enter your heart.
None.
And define the content of what is in you.
None.
The way you're going to do it.
But they can only express
poetic appreciation. That's why poetic appreciation is open. You look at it from one angle, you interpret it one way. Another person can always look at it from another angle.
Of course.
But the actual person that can give you the original meaning of every line is the poet himself.
But you know the funny thing even about poetry is that even if the writer writes, at times he may not perceive some of the things that are inside that poem.
Exactly.
It will take a thought to say, this thing you have written is like this. You know, there was a time we had this argument back in when I was still at the university. We are talking about I think this theoretical perspective of pessimism or something like that.
Yeah. Pessimism
and there is this Shakespeare book that I think it's Macbeth, where Macbeth says tomorrow brings in this petty pace, and all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. He was regretting the act that he has committed to be enthroned. And you know, it borders on that idea of pessimism, giving up in life, that things would never get better. And these ideas were later postulated by Paul Sartre, from the American playwright, who wrote about these things, and he came up with them and gave it a name, that this is the kind of thing. And even if you look back into the ancient time, you talk about the Bible, you can see the same ideas being expressed by, I think, is it King Solomon, who said vanity upon vanity? Vanity upon vanity. It's vanity. Yeah. So that is still the aspect that life doesn't amount to anything. It's at the end of the day, you just go, and that's what it is.
I call this man a master of metaphors.
Yeah.
Why do you think he was using metaphors in?
You know, in literature. In literature, you read beyond the line. There are three ways to read. You read the line, you read between the line, and you read beyond the line. As literators or literature, you're expected to read beyond the line.
What did you say?
Only reading
As
the
literature
line.
is what?
Literature and literatures. You know, you don't read only the line. Only maybe scientists, they read the lines, you know. But what makes the linguists, literatures or literators different is the fact that they read between the line and they read beyond the line.
I think we need to find
to become a real poetic analyst, you need to be able to read beyond the line. And that is why one of the elements of poetic writing is metaphor, you know, and you don't talk directly because you go deeper into you, and you have to bring the deep side, the wound in you. It might be positive wound or negative wound. When you are too happy, you can write the best of your poem. When you are too sad, you write the best of your poem. That's why those who have faced challenges in life, their work are deeper than any form or any writing. That's why you use metaphor. You know, the time he faced a lot of challenges. I'm going back to that. So he faced a lot of challenges. He was dealt with by his own people, and he realized his own people are crying. And he was seeing this every day. Not only that, he was tortured physically and psychologically. The only way for him to express himself, for him to be able to deal with the oppressor, is to go deeper into this.
Cool down. You're talking as if he's your uncle or your father. Come on, relax, man. Now, talking about.
I wanted to add something to what he has said so far. You see, like he has explained truly. When you analyze something, there are three levels of analysis. You mentioned, we call that the text, the context, and the meta text. The meta text is going beyond what is written in the text. The text is the work itself. Then the context is the application of the work within the work itself, and which is what he has explained so far. But coming to talk about metaphor, when a poem is written plainly, it is not a poem. Basically, there are techniques or tools that you bring into poetic writings. So such like metaphors, you have synecdoche and simile, etc. like that. These equipments are what beautify a poem. And you see, poetry thrives on the husbandry of words. It's not just something you just write plainly. It comes out in a different form from plain writing. It is not prose. Prose can be plain. It uses everyday language. But poetry hides its meaning behind several forms of images. These images can only be formed with such equipment as the metaphor which you're talking about.
No. That's why.
And even if you want to talk to people in the government, you want to address something that you don't want people to know the exact meaning,
deeper side of
you hide the message under an image.
Why should
I can insult you, but you will not know. You laugh behind you, dancing like this. You have to respect Hadraawi.
Okay, I do. I respect him. He is the father.
Yes. When you talk about father of Somali poetry, father of Somali literature. You cannot eliminate Hadraawi. Hadraawi.
In fact, he comes first.
He comes first. He comes first.
Now, talking about
He combines the 3 stages of literature as far as Africa is concerned.
Okay, guys.
Colonial, the colonial, and the post-colonial.
You know what? I want us to go for a break. But before that, I want you to think about this. There's this one poem that you want to analyze analytically, and the way you've said, I was like, I'm like a small Peking, a small boy hearing what's happening around. There's one poem that you want us to analyze when you come from a break, a poem known as Amazement.
Wow.
Okay? So guys,
Such a beautiful poem.
keep in touch after the break.
All right, okay then.
Welcome back. I tell you, this is ArtFlakes, and these guys, they are on fire. Because of Hadraawi.
You know, unfortunately, I was supposed to be a co-host and now acting like a guest, because I love that man so much, Hadraawi has really inspired me. So that's why I decided to, I didn't know, naturally, I just realized that I was just blowing, like that.
Yes.
And poetry, because it's me. Poetry is my blood. I'm also a poet. So when you are talking about someone who is related or associated with you, you feel like you're at home. So,
there's this writer called Ngugi wa Thiong'o. He wrote a book, and it's a place he said, his blood flows in my veins. So can I say the blood of Hadraawi flows in your veins?
Of course, because the blood of poetry flows in
you. Can hear him. You can hear him.
Okay, I'm listening.
Come on. That's why if the blood of poetry flows in you, automatically, if it flows in him, there is going to be a connection. And when you put 2 magnets together, you see the way.
There is always this superficial connection between poets, and we agree. We know.
Don't be surprised at some point when they repel, because you never know.
When you talk about the muse, we have only one muse in poetry, right? And we connect that.
Okay. Now let's do this. Before we talk about the poem Amazement, this guy has written a lot of poems, which are both in different genre and in different pointing out different issues. Do you really know some of his poems?
Basically, I've come in contact with the translated version because I'm still struggling with the Somali language, of course. And I've seen Clarity. I think there's one, Life's Essence. In fact, that poem actually speaks a lot to me, because certain things you can derive from the poem. It reads more like a longer version of Rudyard Kipling's Eve, a poem I once read like that at the time before now. So
Clarity is the one that pinched you.
I love Clarity so much, despite its the elaborate or how lengthy it is. I love that poem so much.
Which one else do you maybe know?
Anyway, there are a lot of them, but there's one that the one that depicts the pride in him as a true Somali.
This guy.
He did not only talk about the contents, he talks about the value and the essence of the language.
Being proud of who you are.
That he used to be able to become what he has become today.
I'm still waiting for the poem.
By the time we get deeper into that, we will be able to explore that. I am more interested in
I think that should be settling the Somali language.
Yes,
no, very good. It's a very good
very
point.
interesting.
I've read that one too. It's very interesting.
Settling in Somali language.
Very interesting. And with the refrain that comes like it reads like music.
Yeah,
guys, I know you have a lot to discuss.
Very lyrical.
I know.
Even you can invite the audience. There's chorus. As soon as you're done with one part, the chorus will come in.
The refrain.
The refrain then. And it will make it so lyrical. By the time you look at the original one, you understand you cannot appreciate this
Okay, guys.
when you have, unless you get those who can give you the real
My
one.
director is telling me that you're out of time. But because of that, I want you to do this. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Because we know this is airtime and we need to conserve it. I want to do this. In the next episode, we'll discuss about the Amazement.
Wow.
Because it's one of the poems that I found it to be so awesome. And it starts with a dazzling something. And I'm like,
What is dazzling?
What is this dazzling all about? Okay. So guys, make sure you are with us in the next episode. Thank you so much, my co-host.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you so much. And then this guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Should we applaud him for all that?
So fantastic.
I also applaud you too. I also applaud you too.
Okay, guys, make sure you catch up next time at the same time. Next, it's this CBA. See you.